Hello everybody, it's Josie here. I'm rocking a casual look today because, well, firstly because I've been doing special effects makeup and it's quite fun and takes a long time, so I thought I would do a video dressed like the scary zombie girl from a horror film. So am I scaring you? So anyway, I thought this look would be great to review a book. Because, yeah, that makes sense. So this is the book that I'm talking about. And this is a horror book, so hence the horror aspect to my look. And this book is the new Grady Hendrix book. Now, I personally adore Grady Hendrix. This is called The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. And, you know, slaying vampires is good. I love this cover. Look at that. The peaches with the blood. Just so cool. So, Grady Hendrix. For those of you that haven't read Grady Hendrix before, I adore Grady Hendrix' writing style. He has a real unique way of blending horror with humour, which is not something most authors do very successfully, but Grady, I think, does. One of my other favourite books of his is My Best Friend's Exorcism. I've also read They Sold Their Souls, and I've read the other one, whose name I can't think of right now, but I've pretty much read all of Grady Hendrix's books and loved every single one of them. This is fantastic. So this is his brand new release. And it basically it's actually set, and there's an author's note in the front, and it is set in the same town as My Best Friend's Exorcism. So it's kind of like a sequel, but you do not have to have read My Best Friend's Exorcism. And there's no reference to those particular characters. So, you know, it's a book all on its own, but it's the same town and a few years later. So we're kind of looking at the early 90s time period here. And that's another thing I love about Grady Hendrix. It's very 80s, 90s focused as well. My Best Friend's Exorcism as well, so I kind of love that. But this concerns a group of middle-aged housewives. They're a bit bored with their lives, so they form a book club. So they have this book club. The book club ends up being a bit boring, and then 4 of them kind of splinter off. Is it 5? Can't remember now. 4 or 5 of them splinter off and do their own book club. And in this book club, they read a lot of true crime fiction. And then someone moves in next door. So to one of the characters, down the road, kind of next door to her, moves this man. And he moves in with his aunt, who is quite old and a bit sick. And it kind of... I don't want to... So I don't know how much to say about the plot of this book, because if I say much more, I'm going to kind of give the whole plot away. But obviously, clues in the title, vampires. What I love about this is not your traditional vampires. I also love that it's not teen focused, that you have kind of 30-year-old women, mothers, 30, 40-year-old mothers, you know, with lives, and it's not teenagers slaying vampires. So, you know, they're adults. There is some fantastic body horror in this, so that's why I thought the look would be great for it. You know, you've got to be able to stand some body horror. There's a scene with rats that don't have your lunch while you're reading it. But there's real kind of body horror elements, which I loved. You know, on the scale of, you know, freezer scale, I would put this in the fridge. It kind of freaked me out, especially some of the body horror elements. But it's not, I don't think it's a freezer book. I don't necessarily think any Grady Hendrix books are necessarily freezer books, but then that's up to personal kind of thresholds of horror that you can take. But again, he blends some really kind of like funny moments with some really gross moments. So the main character's mother, mother-in-law, not mother, is living with them. She kind of moves in with them as well, and she's got like dementia. Which is not, I mean, it's obviously not funny on its own, but the way he kind of writes some of these scenes, it just is kind of, it's cringe, it's gross, but it's also kind of funny in a dark sort of way. So I love that. I think this also, actually the Southern sort of American setting, and there's a really interesting discussion about race in here as well, because part of the story is that, you know, you've got the affluent sort of wealthy part of this town, and then you've got 6 Mile, which is where, you know, the less wealthy people live, and it's where a lot of the African American people live. And there's a lady that cares for the mother-in-law in this book, and she also cleans. And what happens in this community is their kids go missing as well. So that's kind of part of the story. And she she says, and it's on the page, and there's a discussion on the page, it's like, well, nobody cares about our children. You know, if our children go missing, who cares? You know, the police aren't doing anything. So I think that's really good. It's really timely, and I think that's a great addition to the storyline, particularly kind of that Southern American setting. So I think that's good. It's got like a bit of a deeper meaning to it, but honestly, just from a kind of horror book, fun, loved it. It's not the thinnest book, and I flew through this, so it's it's almost 400 pages, just shy of 400 pages, and I loved it. I read it in 2 days. I just absolutely flew through it. And like I said, there's great body horror, there's great scares. I mean, you kind of know who the vampire is from the beginning, but there's a really funny scene in here where the main character, she goes off to the local bookstore, and you know, she needs to think of ways of how she can deal with this vampire, and she thinks the best research she can do is go to the local bookstore and buy basically every novel on vampire. So like they mentioned Interview with the Vampire and kind of like trashy romance novels and all of that, but everything that has kind of vampire in the title and the cover. And it's really funny where she sort of plonks all of these down on the counter, and the guy's like, wow, you must really like vampires. And you know, this is her research on how to kill vampires. It's very funny. So that's like one of the kind of comedy elements. And like I said, then you also have the kind of horror elements. She gets attacked at one point, which is and the rats. Oh, the rats. I mean, trigger warning for that if you are rat phobic. Yeah. But all in all, I love this book. I highly recommend Grady Hendrix. I think this is a lot of fun. I think if you like horror, I think if you like your horror with a bit of humor in it, and also if you like horror that features adult women characters, this is great. Yeah, so if you like all those things, I recommend it. No need to dress up like this while you're reading it, but it helps. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you're keeping well and safe. Clearly, quarantine has done its worst on me. And like I said, thank you for watching. Any recommendations based on this, leave them down below, and I will speak to you all again very soon. Bye.